imagine trying to find a needle in a haystack.
Mm.
Only someone keeps backing up dump trucks of hay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just burying you deeper and deeper until the ground completely disappears.
Yeah, that is a perfect way to describe it. It's totally overwhelming.
We're looking at the 2005 disappearance of Tara Grinstead. She was a 30-year-old high school history teacher and a former beauty queen from Ocilla, Georgia. We have to look at the eerie silence of Monday, October 24, 2005, because the weekend leading up to that Monday was it was incredibly normal.
Totally routine.
On Saturday, Tara spent the day helping young girls get ready for the local sweet potato pageant. She attended the event and then, headed over to a friend's house for a barbecue.
Right, a man named Troy Davis.
Yes, Troy Davis. She left that barbecue around 11:00 p.m., and Troy actually watched her walk to her car. And that is the very last confirmed time anyone saw her.
Which is chilling to think about.
It really is. So Sunday passes quietly. Then Monday morning rolls around, and Tara doesn't show up to teach her 11th grade history class at Irwin County High School.
And her coworkers immediately know this is completely out of character for her.
Yeah, she was not the type to just skip work.
Yeah.
So they call the Ocilla police to do a welfare check. And what the officers find is, well, it's a scene composed entirely of contradictions.
It really was a logistical nightmare for a small-town police force because, on the surface, the environment actually suggested she was safe or, had left willingly.
Or her car was right there in the driveway.
Exactly. Her car is parked, the house was locked up tight, her dog and cat were inside and perfectly fine.
Just waiting for her.
Yeah. Her cell phone was resting on its charger right by her bedside. And the clothes she was wearing at the barbecue on Saturday night, those were inside the house, which proves she definitely made it home.
But then the anomalies start popping up, and they are what make the hairs on the back of your neck stand up, because her purse and her keys are completely missing. And her car seat is pushed all the way back, like it was adjusted for someone much taller than her.
Right, which points to someone else driving her vehicle.
Exactly. Plus, there is this envelope with $100 in cash just sitting right on her dashboard.
Which is so strange.
Yeah. And then inside the house, her bedside clock is knocked onto the floor, it's broken, and the time displayed on it is off by 6 hours.
A huge red flag.
Bedpost is damaged, a lampshade is askew. There's a very small stain on her comforter that looks like it could be blood.
And don't forget the yard.
Right. Out in the front yard, about 15 feet from her front door, investigators find a single latex glove.
Just one glove.
It's honestly like looking at a puzzle where the pieces have been mixed together from two completely different boxes.
That's a great way to put it.
Like half the pieces imply she just stepped out with someone she knew. But the other pieces, the broken clock, the damaged bedpost, and a random latex glove in the yard. I mean, those scream foul play.
Yeah, they do. And you have to remember, local law enforcement in a town like Ocilla, they are equipped to handle standard domestic disputes or, burglaries, assaults with clear, linear narratives.
Not this.
No, a scene with no forced entry, very minimal signs of a struggle, yet obvious indicators of an abduction. It simply doesn't fit any standard protocol they have.
So they knew they were in over their heads.
They recognized it instantly. They immediately called in the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, the GBI, which that shifted the entire scale of the response. Because ambiguous physical evidence at a crime scene basically necessitates a broad investigation. They had no clear direction to point their compass, so they just had to cast the widest net imaginable.
Well, they started with her romantic connections, which, makes sense.
Yeah.
They investigated her ex-boyfriend, an Army Ranger named Marcus Harper.
Right.
They had a tumultuous 6-year relationship and had broken up just 2 weeks prior. And a week before she vanished, Tara had actually shown up at his house, highly emotional, banging on his windows.
Which definitely gives police a reason to look closely at him.
Exactly. But Marcus cooperated fully. He gave DNA, he had a verifiable alibi, and so he was cleared.
Yeah, he wasn't the guy.
Then they look at a married police captain from a neighboring town, Heath Dykes.
Right, this one was interesting.
Yeah, because he had left his business card wedged in her front door that weekend. His name was on her caller ID. He had called her phone over 20 times that weekend, and he even drove by her house Sunday night to check on her.
But again, he was cleared too.
He was. And then the tips just started rolling in, thousands of them. The case file grew so massive that it eventually became the largest in Georgia state history.
Reportedly 16 feet in length.
16 feet. But wait, if you have a 16-foot case file, that means you have more raw data to work with. In almost any other field, having more data is an advantage. How does that actually hurt an investigation?
Well, in law enforcement, raw data without a filtration mechanism is just a massive liability.
Okay, how so?
Because every single tip requires a chain of custody, interviews, background checks, and often forensic lab work. When investigators are dealing with ambiguous evidence, they literally cannot afford to ignore anything.
So they have to chase every single lead.
Exactly. And this drains man-hours at an exponential rate. The concept here is signal versus noise. And in this case, the noise completely drowns out the signal.
And some of that noise was incredibly distracting and labor-intensive, right? Like in 2009, this guy posts videos on YouTube calling himself the Catch Me Killer.
Oh, I remember this.
Yeah, his face is blurred, his voice is altered, and he is claiming he killed 16 women, specifically naming Tara Grinstead.
Just a horrific thing to do.
The police spend all this valuable time tracking the IP address, finding the guy who turns out to be a 27-year-old named Andrew Haley, only to discover it was a complete hoax.
Right, he went to jail for making false statements, but for the investigation, it was a total dead end.
Completely. And then in 2010, a former student of Tara's tragically takes his own life and leaves behind a note claiming he knows who killed her, listing 12 random people.
And you think about the logistics of clearing a tip like that, it's staggering.
Yeah.
The GBI had to track down all 12 individuals, secure warrants, or get consent to swab them for DNA, send those swabs to a state crime lab that's already backlogged, and wait for the results.
Which takes months.
Months of resources. And it turned out none of those 12 people had any idea what the note was talking about. Another dead end.
So while detectives are busy tracking down a YouTube hoaxer or interviewing innocent people named in a fake suicide note, genuine clues can just easily slip through the cracks.
Exactly. They end up sitting in a box, unread and unacted upon, simply because the investigators are buried under that mountain of hay.
Which sets the stage for basically a 12-year period of stagnation. The investigation is completely bogged down by its own weight.
Nothing is moving.
But when official channels are choking on noise, sometimes an outside force is needed to shake the tree, you know.
Yeah, a catalyst.
Right. In August 2016, an independent documentary filmmaker named Payne Lindsay launches the Up and Vanished podcast, dedicating it entirely to Tara's case.
Which was huge for this town.
He goes to Osceola, knocks on doors, interviews everyone, and basically broadcasts the town's darkest secrets to the world. It reignites this intense local chatter.
And the psychological effect of that media pressure is fascinating because the podcast bypassed official filters and altered the whole psychological environment of the town.
It stirred everything up.
Yeah, I mean, it didn't necessarily uncover the DNA or find the physical evidence, but what it did was create an inescapable atmosphere of paranoia.
Everyone is talking about it.
Right. When everyone in town is suddenly talking about the case again, when there are billboards up, when microphones are in people's faces, a guilty conscience that has been suppressed for a decade finds it impossible to hide.
It just bubbles up.
The podcast forced the truth out of the shadows by making the silence unbearable for those carrying the secret.
So by early 2017, the pressure cooker pops. A woman named Brooke Sheridan walks into the GBI.
Finally, a real break.
Yes. She tells them that her boyfriend, Bo Dukes, has been having severe panic attacks ever since the GBI started re-interviewing people because of the podcast.
Wow.
She says Bo confessed something horrifying to her. He said his friend, Ryan Duke, confessed to breaking into Tara's house and strangling her.
Which is just a massive revelation.
And it gets worse. Bo then helped Ryan take Tara's body to the Dukes family's pecan orchard and burn it. The suspects turn out to be Bo Dukes and Ryan Dukes, two best friends. Okay, let's unpack this. Two former students who had attended Irwin County High School while Tara was teaching there. They commit this crime, brag about it, and manage to completely avoid detection for 12 years, living right under the nose of the largest GBI investigation in state history.
It's almost unbelievable, but it highlights the difference between an official police interrogation and social paranoia. Well, law enforcement relies on legal leverage, right? But social pressure relies on emotional fracturing. Once Brooke Sheridan came forward, the dominoes fell rapidly.
Yeah, they move fast.
In February 2017, the GBI arrested Ryan Duke for murder. Shortly after, they arrested Bo Dukes for concealing a death and hindering apprehension. And Ryan gave a spontaneous 90-second confession almost immediately.
And his narrative was chillingly specific. He claimed he was high, looking for drug money, and broke into Tara's house using a credit card to slip the locks.
Okay.
He said he was trying to steal her purse and keys, but she woke up and caught him. He claimed he struck her just one fatal blow. Then he used Bo Dukes's white Ford F-150 to move her body to the Hudson pecan orchard, which belonged to Bo's family, and burned her body there for 2 days.
Just horrific.
In his confession, Ryan uttered this really haunting line. He said, "Words are useless, but I'm burdened with the murder of Miss Grinstead." He
Oh.
even led the GBI to the specific area in the orchard, and anthropologists finally found severely burned human bone fragments.
So at this point, the physical evidence seemed to definitively lock the case.
Right. It feels closed.
Exactly. Because that single latex glove found in the yard back in 2005, the DNA on the inside matched Tara, and the primary DNA profile on the outside matched Ryan Duke.
Unbelievable.
The forensic biologist actually testified that the probability of finding that profile randomly in the population was 1 in 300 quadrillion.
1 in 300 quadrillion.
Yes.
So you have a confession, an accomplice's testimony, and a 1 in 300 quadrillion DNA match at the crime scene. But if they had a confession and the DNA, how does a jury walk him on a murder charge?
Because trials are never that simple.
Right, because when Ryan Duke's murder trial begins in May 2022, he takes the stand and drops a total bombshell. He recants his entire confession. He claims he didn't kill her and had never even been inside her house.
He completely flips the script.
Yeah.
He testified that he only gave the 2017 confession because he was high on painkillers and terrified of Bo Dukes.
Terrified of his friend.
Right. Ryan's new narrative was that he woke up in their shared trailer back in 2005, and Bo Dukes was there, looking panicked, holding Tara's purse, and that Bo confessed to killing her.
Oh, wow.
So Ryan's defense team argued that Ryan only helped dispose of the body and that he only touched that latex glove after the murder while moving her.
And when the defense called Bo Dukes to the stand to testify during Ryan's trial, Bo just repeated, "On the advice of counsel, I'll be invoking my Fifth Amendment right not to testify today."
Which just adds to the chaos.
It's like the prisoner's dilemma on steroids.
Yeah.
Two men pointing fingers at each other. And it creates the ultimate forensic smokescreen. By having two viable suspects blaming each other, the defense doesn't need to prove innocence. They just need to generate enough fog to block the jury from seeing beyond a reasonable doubt.
And to understand how effective that smokescreen was, we really have to look at the legal mechanics of the charges.
Okay, let's look at it.
Ryan was charged with malice murder, which in Georgia means acting with the deliberate intention to unlawfully take a life. He was also charged with felony murder, which means causing a death during the commission of a felony, in this case, burglary. But the defense dismantled the state's narrative by weaponizing the prosecution's own evidence.
They used the glove.
Exactly. They pointed to the latex glove. If Ryan was wearing the glove during the murder, why was his DNA on the outside?
Oh, that is a really good question.
The defense argued he put the glove on later to help Bo move the body, which perfectly explained the 1 in 300 quadrillion DNA match without placing Ryan inside the house at the time of the killing.
Wow. They took a piece of evidence that seemed like a silver bullet for the prosecution and completely flipped it into reasonable doubt.
It's brilliant defense work. It forces juries to weigh the forensic infallibility of DNA against the notorious unreliability of human confessions.
Because false confessions do happen.
They absolutely do. People falsely confess to crimes all the time, especially under the influence of narcotics or out of fear. The jury had to decide which version of the story was the truth, and the verdicts reflected that deep uncertainty.
They really did. Because back in 2019, Bo Dukes went to trial for his role in the cover-up.
Right.
The jury heard from several people who said Bo had bragged about the crime over the years. They found Bo guilty of concealment and making false statements, and the judge gave him the maximum, 25 years.
Which makes sense, especially since Bo already had a criminal record.
Yeah, he had served federal prison time for embezzling over $150,000 worth of equipment from the U.S. Army.
Right. But the outcome for Ryan Duke in 2022 was drastically different.
Shockingly different.
The jury acquitted Ryan of malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault. They found him not guilty of the killing.
Which blew people's minds.
They only found him guilty of concealing a death, for which he received a 10-year sentence.
That acquittal left the state completely scrambling. They wanted to punish these men for the severity of what happened, which triggered a doomed appeal that brings us to this massive 2025 legal twist.
This is where it gets really frustrating.
A neighboring jurisdiction, Ben Hill County, tried to bring additional charges against the two men related to the disposal of the body in their county. But in late February and early March of 2025, a Georgia appeals court threw those charges out.
Just threw them out completely.
And Their reasoning is the most devastating part of this entire deep dive.
The court ruled that the statute of limitations had expired. And we have to explain the legal distinction here because it's crucial.
Yeah, please do.
In Georgia, murder has no statute of limitations. You can be charged 50 years later. But lesser charges, like concealing a death or hindering apprehension, typically carry a 4-year statute of limitations.
Okay.
Prosecutors argued that the clock didn't start ticking until 2017, when the men actually confessed. But the appeals court looked at the historical record and concluded that law enforcement actually had probable cause to arrest these two men all the way back in November of 2005.
Wait, so the police actually had a tip about them in 2005 and just missed it. Doesn't that mean this entire 12-year mystery was totally preventable?
Yes, that's exactly what it means.
That is insane. Because a witness literally reported to police in 2005 that Bo and Ryan were at a party bragging about killing Tara and burning her body in the pecan orchard.
They had the tip.
The police actually had a tip naming the suspects and identifying the location just weeks after she went missing.
So legally, the clock started running in 2005. By 2009, long before the podcast even existed, the statute of limitations on those concealment charges had already run out.
Oh my God.
The tragedy of that missed 2005 tip perfectly illustrates the fatal flaw we discussed earlier.
The noise.
Exactly. When investigators are buried under thousands of useless tips, hunting down YouTube hoaxers, and dedicating lab resources to fake suicide notes, a completely accurate tip about two kids bragging at a party gets tossed into a box and forgotten for over a decade.
Simple human error in processing massive amounts of data delayed justice, leaving a family without answers while the guilty walked free in their own hometown.
It's really heartbreaking.
We started this journey with a baffling scene. A locked house, a missing purse, a latex glove. That contradictory evidence caused the investigation to balloon into the largest in state history, creating a maze of red herrings and dead ends.
So many dead ends.
It took a true crime podcast to turn up the heat so high that a witness finally came forward, leading to a tangled legal web of confessions, recantations, and a forensic smokescreen that resulted in split verdicts. For you listening, this case is a stark reminder that acquiring information isn't enough. The filtering and management of that information is just as crucial as the facts themselves.
The truth was sitting in that 16-foot file the entire time. It was just buried under the hay.
Which leaves you wondering about the future of cold cases. If a guy with a microphone can shake loose a confession faster than a detective with a badge and a subpoena, we really have to ask what justice looks like going forward.
It's a valid question.
Are we entering an era where stagnant cases are only solved by the court of public opinion? And if so, what happens to the collateral damage along the way when the internet decides to do the investigating? Something to think about the next time you hear a town's darkest secrets being broadcast to the world.